This is James Lupton for Round 8 Boxing. Delighted to be joined with Jahan Ingram. How are we doing?
We're doing good. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thanks for joining me. Listen, take me back to the beginning. Do you remember your first day in a boxing gym?
I don't remember the first day, but I remember where I first started at. What brought me to where I'm at today. It was a local gym, a community gym. It's like it had basketball. It was a recreation center, so it was basketball. I go there for after school programs, stuff like that. That's where I started at.
Why did you go there? Was it always boxing for you, or was it other sports for you there?
I did other sports too, but the reason I had went there was my mom. My At that age, at like 6, 7, I was dealing with bullying and stuff, so I was always fighting. So my mom ended up putting me in boxing.
So about 6, 7 years old, you started boxing, was it?
Yes.
What was that like for you? Obviously, from being bullied to putting on gloves and learning discipline and learning how to fight. What was that like for a young man?
It was different. It was real different because it wasn't just me learning fighting, like you said, it was learning discipline, learning how to carry yourself. Coaches is not just teaching you how to fight. Coaches are teaching you character, teaching you how to become a better man. So it was different because I'm just thinking I'm learning how to fight, and I'm thinking that's just gonna be fun, and I didn't know all this other stuff was gonna come behind it, but it was something that was good. I feel like it's good for any kid to go through an experience to help have that structure and discipline when they growing up.
Something I don't usually hear is when boxers tell me why they started, it's not normally the mother said, get down the gym. Normally, mum's saying, no, I don't want my son being punched. I don't want him getting into.
Right.
Why was it that your mum felt like you need to go to boxing? Apart from the bullying, obviously, did she know the bigger picture? She know the discipline side of it?
That's a good question. And that's something I need to ask her. I still don't know that to this day why she chose, boxing. It could have been karate, it could have been wrestling, it could be anything else, but my mom, she chose boxing, and I'm not sure why, because we don't have no boxing background in our family. I think it was only like two of my family members that was boxers. Um, and out of the three of us, only two of us was pro. And out of the two of us, I'm the one that with the farthest. So, it wasn't like, we had a lot of boxing ability in the family. So it's something that's a good question. I need to ask her.
It was destiny. That's what it was.
Uh,
I'll let you know.
yeah, destiny. Yeah.
Talk to me about working with Wasserman. Obviously, it's not something we normally see American signing with a UK promoter. What's that been like for yourself to work with those? And obviously, your last two fights in the UK as well. What's that been like for you?
I love it. I love being able to come over there and experience a different culture, a different environment, and definitely be over there to build my fan base too. So it's something good that I like to do. They do great business. I love working with them. Like I said, their co-partnerships with Misfits, who I'm signed with. So it's like I'm not coming. Oh, I put it like it's not like I'm coming over there to something new. It's like I'm still coming over there under the same umbrella. I'm still getting the same treatment as Misfits treating me. A lot of times when I'm at the Misfits fight and the Watchmen fights, it's the same people that I'm seeing. So it's like I'm in the same environment.
What do you personally prefer? Do you prefer a fight on a Misfit show or a Wasserman show? In terms of everything, in terms of the fans, for me, I know the differences between the two. But for you as a fighter, what do you prefer, if any?
Oh, I prefer balance in both because I feel like the Misfit shows brings a different fan base and the Watchmen shows bring a different fan base. Obviously, like I said, the Watchmen shows, that's most time they in the UK, so like last two was in Newcastle, so I'm getting UK fans. Misfits shows it be on the zone, so it'd be a little mixture of everybody tuning in and watching. But I don't know, I just like the balance of in between both. I feel like the balance between both is a perfect growth and a perfect level for me to be able to blow up even more.
I think for me, the biggest difference is with a Misfits show, the arena is nearly filled out from the first fight, whereas on a normal pro show, like a Westman show or any others, it may only fill out closer to the main event, co-main event. Do you feel more of an atmosphere at a Misfit show, for example?
Oh no, so like I haven't like I only had the two fights with Washington, so I haven't had that much experience at their shows. But the two that I had, both of them was filled up from the start. And both the shows I had, just like how the Misfit shows was. So it really wasn't no change in that for me of from what I was seeing. And it was like I couldn't tell you couldn't tell no different. The only difference I could tell and see is Misfits would have way bigger arenas and it'd be way more camera people and the you got the arena walks and stuff like that. But it really wasn't no big difference.
How beneficial is that side of things? Getting the big production, the bright lights, the ring walks you mentioned there, the big arenas. How beneficial for you is it to get this at an early stage of your career?
I think it's very beneficial because doing it now, when it's on down the line, with the when the fights get bigger, when I'm fighting for the belts and everything, it's something I'm already used to. Walking out into the big crowds, walking out with the spotlights and the cameras in my face. So it's something good now to have before you get to that point. Because it's a lot of fighters that get to that point and never had that, and then they choke and fold under the pressure because they're fighting in front of 40,000 people with all these bright lights and cameras in their face, and they don't know how to handle that. So it's something good that I like that I've been experiencing really from the start that I turned pro. Because even the first three parts I fought on, they were smaller shows, but they still had the bright lights with the cameras in your face and stuff because they were streaming it on Twitch. So it was something I was already welcomed into turning pro.
A lot of fighters could see that and feel a bit of pressure. Obviously, you've been on various different stages, like you mentioned, Twitch. Obviously, the Westman shows, the Misfit shows. With Misfits, you've got your KSI as a big influencer names involved in those. Obviously, you've been around stars like Floyd Mayweather and Gervonta Tank Davis. How do you deal with, or do you even feel pressure?
Um, I'm gonna always feel pressure, but I don't feel pressure when I'm in the ring. When I'm in the ring, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do, and I know what I'm gonna do when I step in that ring. So I don't feel pressure as then. But like working out and just everyday life, I feel that pressure because I feel like I have everyone on my back. I'm the one that has to keep going the farthest to make it, so everybody else around me can eat and live the way they want to live.
I mentioned obviously been around the likes of Floyd Mayweather. He's been at the very top, a lot regard him as the greatest of all time. He's done everything possible to achieve in boxing. You spent time around him, you sparred with him. What's it like to be around somebody like Floyd who has done it all?
Um, it's a little different, but not too much different. He still acts like a regular guy. He still want to have fun. Still, be childish. A lot of time boxers don't really get to have a childhood or get to have fun. So, at the age he retired, he just want to have fun and enjoy it. So it's an experience to see that, but then also see the level he on. He's one of them. He's like Ali and Mike Tyson, as famous wise. So, you know, seeing how he'll move when he go out and he can barely do anything because people running up to him, and then plus the amount of money he has. So just seeing how he carry himself that way, that's something that I was paying attention to. So I know once I'm at that point, okay, I know the dudes and and not lose. So it was an experience to be able to see that and witness that.
Was it eye-opening and was it what you expected from Floyd?
Um, I, I would say no because I didn't know what to expect. You know, I had met a couple of previous before Floyd. I had met a couple of famous people and stuff, but it's not nothing I ever kind of expect from anyone. I did kind of expect him to be a little bit more cocky, like how I would see him on TV and on the Showtime recaps and all that stuff. But it seemed like that was just to sell the fight. He was still kind of cocky in person, but not as cocky as how he was on the All Access and on Showtime and all that.
I'm assuming Floyd is somebody that you sort of grew up watching, somebody that you probably looked up to in boxing, am I right?
Yes,
But what was that like for you to share rounds with him? Even though I don't know if he's sparred in since then, but I know it was a few years back when he was, I think he was 44 years old, but he's still sparring actively and he's still teaching whilst in the ring. What was that like for you to be in there and how much did you learn just from being in there with Floyd?
I learned so much from being in there with him because you're in there with one of the best. You can't not learn when you're in there with one of the best. It's so much you can learn and so much to process. And it was really like a once in a lifetime experience. Because you have amazing fighters. He's not the only fighter that's amazing, but he's also a great fighter, which is a big difference from amazing to me. So, I don't like I said, you said I done been there with Gervonta, Rolly, some other top guys, but you can see that the big experience and big difference of the way Floyd carries himself in the ring, his ring generalship versus theirs. And it's just like kind of almost unbelievable how he can pick someone apart, or you would think you have the upper hand and he can switch it in just a split second and change the whole tempo of the sparring match with you.
Do you think with Floyd, and obviously he's a very much a thinking man's fighter, even at his age now, or go back a few years when you showed the ring when he's 44 years old, do you think he could still be competitive now against the likes of a Gervonta Davis or a Rowley, who you showed the ring with also?
Mm, yes and no. I say yes because his smarts is still there. He's still able to outsmart you and outthink you. But I also say no because of the fact that he's up in age and now it's not like if he having a bad day, that bad day is gonna show. Like younger boxers, if they having a bad day in the gym, they can be able to still use their ability to make it look like they're not having a bad day. But he still don't have he's so much older. He doesn't have that ability to just bounce back like that.
Obviously, it's one thing for you sparring Floyd and after everything that he's done, but like I said, at 44 years old, and you mentioned obviously you can tell he's an older fighter. What's it like for you to spar the Gervontas and the Rollies? You know, these are current world champions, active fighters. What was that like, and what different challenges did they pose on yourself?
It was a great experience because it was a confident boosters too because it showed me that I am and that I know I can compete on that level that they're on. So it was a great experience to be able to share the ring with them, and it wasn't too much challenging. Like I said, for me to be able to know that I can compete on the level with them, it wasn't that much of a challenge. Like I took that thinking man game from Floyd, so anytime I'm in there, that's what's on my mind. I know some of these guys hit harder than me, some of them faster, but my main goal is to outthink you. So I'm not gonna try to be faster than you. I'm not gonna try to show that I'm stronger than you. I'm just gonna try to outthink you. That's my main goal.
Did you feel like you frustrated these champions when you was in the ring with them?
Yes,
And is that just through your ring IQ and your thinking side of things, or was that with your talent and ability as well?
my talent and ability definitely played a part, but my outthinking made it where my talent and ability really showed that part of giving them frustration because you know the talent ability always going to be there, but the thinking comes from me putting in that hard work, putting in that effort, so if I wasn't putting in that hard work, putting that effort, I wouldn't have been able to use my brain and stuff like how I learned from Floyd. And they probably would have showed me like, oh, I'm not on their level, like I can't compete on their level. But with me putting in that hard work and really paying attention and studying the stuff that I do and practice in the gym when I'm sparring or fighting, I just replay all that in my head in that moment, and I'm paying attention to the small little things, the small movements. I'm paying attention to the way they react when I feint to them, when I jab them, when I throw the right hand a certain way, or if I touch the body a certain way. I'm paying attention to every little movement because a lot of time boxers have the same pattern. You know, they might have the same pattern where they throw the same punch after you throw a certain punch, or they just do the same defense a certain way, or just they normal bounce before they punch is a certain way. So if you can pick up on them little things, that'll make a big, huge difference.
I think a great example at the top of the game at the moment is Alexander Usyk. He's very much somebody who can work somebody out in the ring. Give him one or two rounds, and he will figure out his opponent
Right.
just from being in there. And like you say, these little telltale signs from what he studied with them, when they start doing the ring, he knows, okay, this is how they're going to approach this fight. This is what they're going to do next, and that really sets him apart from the rest of the heavyweight division. Do you feel that your IQ and that side of it, the mind side of things, will set you apart from your opponents in the future?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Like I done been in there with so many people that's way much better than me, got way more experience than me, but I use that ability of outthinking them with my skill level and my talent, and it just plays a big difference. It makes me look like I'm so far ahead of the game of them when they're really ahead of me, but they're just not on my thought level.
And just finally, obviously, you're very confident in your ability. You've taken confidence from sparring these world champions like Gervonta Tank and Romero there. Do you look far down the line in your career? Do you sort of try and map out and almost manifest? I know there's a recent interview you done where you spoke about Curmel Moton, for example, and fighters who are on the same sort of level as you, the same, we started at the same sort of time, the same number of fights. Do you look at these guys and think, okay, well, in 5, 10 fights time, I could be fighting him for a world title or could be fighting him for an eliminator? Do you look at other guys in your division like that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, for example, how you brought up Carmel. Carmel is a hell of a fighter. He's one of those fighters that's definitely going to have a belt. If we're in the same division, if he have a belt, I have a belt, I for sure see both our promotions that we are with at that time, trying to match up that fight. So that's why anytime anybody asks if I see myself fighting him, I always say yeah, because it's a business at the end of the day. They're gonna if he has a big name, I have a big name, they're gonna make they're gonna want to make a fight with whoever has a big name. So it brings in revenue. So just like I don't think he gonna go too far, Kid Austin, but he right now he has a name. You got Keyshawn Davis, Abdullah Mason, um, Zaquan. Uh, it's a lot of people. Emiliano, Vargas. There's a lot of people coming up right now. So I'm pretty sure like about a 80% chance I'm gonna fight fight about 80% of them. It might be like one or two that we never clash, but everybody else most likely we gonna clash because they all have that ability to be top and elite fighters. And at the end of the day, everybody want to see the elite fighters fight the elite fighters. So then it's just gonna fall on the promotion of them wanting to make that fight.
These names you mentioned are all huge prospects, huge potential, including yourself. Does that sort of show that, especially in the lighter divisions, America is taking over for the next few years?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that happening in the lighter division. Uh Other divisions, I can't speak on. I don't really pay attention to everybody that's in the bigger or too much lighter divisions, but I know like the division I am, the 140 to 135, is really is pretty stacked right now. So yeah, I can see it's stacked with the guys that's doing their thing right now, but it's stacked with prospects too. So I can see all us if we don't stay in this weight class, moving up another weight class. That's the weight class that's going to be, that you could say America has taken over.
You mentioned the name there, Abdullah Mason, obviously a very young man, a really, really good talent, and he's fighting in November for a world title against a Brit, Sam Noakes, another young guy. He's a bit of a knockout artist. Do you think Abdullah is doing the right thing at this stage of his career, at the age he's at, to jump into a world title fight? Or do you feel that he may still need some learning fights?
Um, I feel if it presents itself, you take the opportunity, especially if it's you're with someone you're gonna beat. You take that opportunity. But I do feel if that's how they feel about this fight, this opportunity they can take, and that's somebody they know they're gonna beat. After this one, I feel they should slow it down and take more of learning fights after they have the belt, and trying to kind of hate to say it, but like cherry pick the opponent. So, it's still a good fight, but it's a learning experience because they pushing Abdullah fast. They putting a lot of fights on him back to back. He's not taking no damage or nothing, but he's not really learning either because the guys they putting in front of him is nobody that's testing him, nobody that's really doing anything to him. I don't know if it was the last one or like the last two, but he had got dropped. That was a good test for him. That showed he has heart. That showed he can get back up and get back competitive. But it also showed a weakness. So now that it showed a weakness, you want to try to start getting fights and stuff that'll help capitalize on that so that doesn't happen again. But right now, I feel like he's on a good path. I feel like they should slow him down a little bit though.
Last question. We mentioned Curmel and yourself potentially in the future. And you mentioned if it makes revenue, it makes sense. How much of that side of the sport do you look into the marketability of yourself and your opponents later down the line? For example, Curmel, it's one of those fights where you've both been compared to Floyd. You're both the next Floyd Mayweather. Story sells itself. Is that something that interests you on that side of thing as well? Being able to sell a fight and having a backstory in your fights.
Yeah, I definitely love when there's fights going on and it's a backstory or it's a big build up. It could be a feud they had. It could have been they had fought in the amateurs a lot, or they had a sparring sessions together and then it turned into a feud or whatever. I feel like it's more of a bigger build up with stuff like that. It's more of your entertaining fights because it's a real feud. You know, they can match me up with a random guy and we might say a few things at the press conference and stuff like that, but it's not gonna be that interesting because it's not a real feud. Of course, if with my character and the way I am, I'm gonna bring my crowd and my fan base. So of course they gonna want to tune in, but to catch new eyes and new attention on you or your promotion that you with or the fight at the time, I feel like the build ups be way better. They sell way better.
Is it anyone that you feel like you may have a feud with in the future, as somebody from your amateur days, as you mentioned, somebody that you've got a bit of needle with currently, or
Not nobody from the amateurs. I can see I can see like some guys that I sparred with. I can see, a few building up. It's not like it's some guys I have bad blood with just from sparring, and then some guys, we never had bad blood, but we sparred a lot. But I can see if it turns into, them want to make a fight with us, I can see it turning into bad blood.
when you sort of see that and recognize that you may fight them in the future, would you stop sparring them? Would you stop almost giving them insight into your game?
Um, nah, nah, because of the fact my style always changes. Every time I spar, every time I fight, nobody really knows how I'm gonna come out. I really don't know how I'm gonna come out. It just depends on the fighter. Like I said, that's why I feel like I'm on a different level than a lot of guys. 'Cause I really pay attention to how the other person moves in the ring. Pay attention to what they do, how they react to certain things, and then I'll be like, okay, based off that, right, we might already have a game plan going into the fight, but based off that, I already have making a new game plan in my head. Like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I might fight off the back foot. I know I can beat them fighting off the back foot the whole time, or I might need to put a little more pressure on them, or I might just stand toe to toe with them. So it's never no telling how I'm gonna come out. So me sparring with them guys, it doesn't make no difference. I would still like to spar with them because I know if they be like, we're fighting, they gonna have fear in their heart because I'm already knowing how the sparring sessions are going. So it that wouldn't make no difference to me.
Fantastic. Well, John, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.